All right, let's try this again, Moxy.
All right, let's do it.
It's not like we haven't been doing this for, 2 years.
Yeah, that's all.
2 years, 3 weeks,
That's nothing really.
74 individual audio episodes, 40-ish real episodes.
Just a little bit of nothing.
Yeah, and just, making mistakes left and right like I'm some sort of amateur. What's going on, man? How you doing? How's your week?
I'm good. My week's been pretty good. Getting things done. Going in for alterations on a wedding dress pretty soon.
Woohoo!
Booking flights. Kicking butt.
Where are you going?
Taking names. Oh, places.
You and Brad are not allowed to leave the state for your honeymoon. You know that, right?
Well, we have to.
He agreed to cancel the honeymoon. So I'm just letting you know that here's the thing. People don't know this because we haven't talked about it much. But whenever Brad leaves the state, something drastic happens here. Whenever I leave the state, it usually catches on fire. So now that things are opening back up again, he's not allowed to leave the state. Here's the fun part. In about 48 hours from this episode being recorded, we're both leaving the state to go to Arizona.
The world. If the holiday armadillo and Santa are ever in the same room for too long, the universe will implode.
Of all the Friends references, you go with holiday armadillo?
That's my favorite episode.
Why?
Because it's so funny.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, hey, by the way, remember, tomorrow, as in the day after this episode drops, we're having dinner with somebody very special.
Yes, we are.
Do you know who?
I do know who. Do you know who?
No, I don't. Can you tell me who we're having dinner with? I totally forgot.
Ruthie Kraft, everybody.
Woohoo! She's coming up trying some incredible tacos from a restaurant, a taco pop-up called Tacozike.
Tacozike.
Are you speaking Spanish?
I was, I think, at the beginning.
I think the word taco was the only thing that you said that was in Spanish. That's because it is in Spanish. With all that being said, Moxy, let's jump in to this week's episode. How do you feel about that?
I'm good with that. Thank you, Mr. Ruben.
Cool. We'll be back in just a second.
Alrighty.
The following is a podcast about life.
Apparently.
I can't not listen to music.
Friendship and tacos.
Let me tell you this. Dropping a taco is a national emergency.
This is You're My Best Friend. Now here are your hosts, Moxy and Ruben Jay.
Welcome to You're My Best Friend, a podcast about life, friendship, and tacos. My name is Ruben Jay.
And my name's Moxy.
Or you can call me God.
No, we're not calling you that. That's not a thing.
It's on the internet.
Well, just because it's on the internet, that doesn't make it true.
You should probably finish introducing yourself now.
My name is Moxy Ann, or as some like to call me, the Angel Gabriel.
And that's not blasphemous?
No, it's not.
I don't understand what's going on here anymore.
It's also sarcasm.
I am sarcasm.
No, I thought you said you were God.
I am God.
Where is this coming from?
God is a
sarcastic
sarcastic God. Home? I'm always having problems at home. I had a great conversation with your fiance a little while ago, by the way.
Yeah?
Yeah, I looked at him. He and I are going to have a pancake or a beer in a little bit. I'm not really sure which one we're doing. But apparently he's got some really cool stuff going on that he wants to tell me about, and I have some stuff to talk to him about. So we're having a little boys' night. And
you haven't heard yet?
Heard what?
Oh, man. Oh, you're going to lose your mind.
He told me this is good stuff, so I'm excited for him. No matter what it is, I'm excited for him.
It's so good.
Unless it's him leaving me. And by that, I mean leaving the state permanently. But he you know how he gets sometimes, when he's tired, his eyes kind of like double over a little bit when he's talking. He did that. I looked at him and I go, "Are you tired, bro? Like, because we don't have to hang out tonight if you don't want to." And he goes, Today I inhaled a lot of fumes." And it's my favorite saying so far, coming out of the mouth of Bradley. So I think we should continuously quote Brad on the show as a feature going forward.
I think that's a great idea.
Sweet. But do you have something good?
I do have something good. So this was something that I teased a little bit a couple of episodes ago. But this is an episode. This is an article from UPI.com. And the title of this article is "Police Wrangle Loose Goat Chasing Cars in England." This is a real story. This happened last month. Police in England, the officers were actually dispatched to help members of the public capture an escaped goat that was spotted chasing vehicles and joggers on a busy road. The police were contacted at about 11:30 about a loose goat, and members of the public helped the first officer on scene grab the goat and hold it by the horns until a second officer arrived to help transport the animal. And this story has a good ending. Police said that the officers were able to identify the goat's owner, not by a name on the collar, but they helped, and the animal was safely returned to its enclosure. So that goat had a great field trip, and all's well in England again.
So I guess the question that I have is, does this goat was the goat on the run because they tied him and or her to the Ronald McDonald kidnapping that we talked about a couple weeks ago? Because
I don't think so, considering that was not an international crime, but who knows?
Well, we can't say for certain that it wasn't an international crime. We don't know who did it.
You're not wrong. I disagree, but you're not wrong.
So it's perfectly plausible that this goat was running from the police because the goat is responsible for the kidnapping of Ronald McDonald.
That is possible. Unlikely, but possible.
I mean, have you ever seen a pissed off goat?
Yeah, they tend to eat clothes.
Clothes. Not clothes. Clothes. I don't know what's weird. I don't know why you have this weird pronunciation of the word clothes. All right. Well, we have a great episode for everybody today. We are going to be talking to somebody who Moxy knows.
Yes.
Moxy, tell everybody what this person does. Let's not say too much about it, but tell them what this person does.
Should I read the quote that I wanted to read?
Oh, that's right. You had a quote that you wanted to read, and we totally forgot to do that.
I did. Well, you know what? How about we do it at the end?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it at the end as our one last thought.
Sounds good.
Or our two last thoughts.
All right.
Couple of thoughts before you go. All right, we'll be back.
Without.
Oh, that's awkward.
That is awkward.
All right, Moxy, this is going to be a fun one.
Yes, I am seriously so stoked for this week's guest that we're having on the podcast. I discovered her on Instagram through a mutual friend of ours and just finished reading her book today, actually. So I am so excited to welcome Vikkiana Fernandez onto the podcast. How are you doing, girl?
Hi, how are you guys? Thank you so much for having me. I feel so honored. I am doing very well. How are you guys?
We're doing well. I wish we were wherever you're at. You look like you're in a forest or something.
Listen, I'm in my favorite area right now. It's like there's like a river ahead of me, so yeah.
Oh,
it's a nice little area.
You're on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
We got to go visit Pennsylvania just to go find this spot and chill.
Now you guys are in California, right?
Yeah.
I visited in November. It's so beautiful there.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
Los Angeles.
Nice. That's where we are. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited, to jump into your story because Moxy, she read your book and she gave me the book report. So I gave her a B plus because I think there's some stuff she left out. But but I'm super excited to dive into your story. But I'm gonna let Moxy kind of take the helm here, and start off the conversation. So Moxy, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Ruben. So, Vikkiana, I mean, it's such an incredible story, and if you haven't read or the bio or anything, the description of this episode, anything like that, Vikkiana wrote a book called The Fugitives Daughter, and it is an incredible story of just heartbreak and redemption and some really, really difficult stuff. Vikkiana, tell us a little bit about the book and what inspired you to write it.
Your end is breaking up a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, now I hear you. It sounds good now.
Cool. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about the book and what inspired you to write it.
Okay, so my book is A Fugitive's Daughter, and it's based on a true story, true events. So my dad was a fugitive for over 15 years, a little over 15 years, and my book is just it was just so crazy. Like the whole story, everything about it was just so crazy. And when I was young, I used to say, "Oh my gosh, I could write a book. Like I could write a book about my life. It's so crazy. Everything we are living through because it was something like it seemed like it was in a movie, and it was from my real life. So as I got older and we ended up getting the end results with my dad's case and stuff like that, then I was like, you know what? I think I should write a book about it. So that's kind of like where we are today.
That's amazing. Yeah. And praise God for that. I mean, I got to admit, I was reading towards the last couple chapters of the book and going, what's going to happen? Like, I hope there's not a bad twist at the end. So how is your dad?
There's a lot of twists and turns. He's well. He's very well. I mean, life has been just like so much better, obviously, because he's not living scared or on the run, and he's with family again. So he's good. He's happy.
That's good. That's good. And I was telling Ruben about the story and kind of about some of the difficulties that you went through as a child and all the twists and turns of it. And what was one of the scariest things that you went through as a kid that people might not know about?
Well, I think the most scariest part was I was molested for a long time, like from like 6 to maybe like 11 to about 11. And actually I'm working on my second book, which is more based on that whole event, that whole story, because after people had read it, they were like, oh my gosh, we didn't know this. And I'm like, well, you don't just walk around telling people that. So I felt like in writing the first book, it was my opening to kind of open my story up now. Like I always wanted to kind of open up about that story, but I was, I was scared or just whatever the case may be. And now I feel like almost like God gave me that leeway. Like, all right, I'm going to give you this story just so that you can open up about the other story and then just let it go. Like, that's kind of where I'm at, just working on that book and just trying to let that story go and just be like an advocate for people who have been through the same traumas that I have been through.
Yeah. I was reading towards the end, you were talking about some of that difficulty that you've experienced, just struggling with PTSD and anxiety and panic attacks and your struggles in facing all of that. How are you doing with that currently?
It's currently so much better. I think now that I'm in a place, I think I'm in a place now where being that I'm more open with my story and just willing to talk about it and be an advocate for people who have been through it or are currently going through it. It's making it a little easier. But like the panic and anxiety and stuff, it was a long journey and I'm still going through it, but it subsides a lot. Like it's a little more manageable because I understand it now. I know the root of my situation, and it's just something I gotta deal with and work through. And that's where I'm at with that.
You know, it's interesting to hear the story and hear the trauma that you went through, because it's a very traumatic story. And you know, it's important, I think, for our audience and anyone who might happen to stumble upon this to talk about addressing the trauma, because I think a lot of people are walking around with a lot of unaddressed trauma in their life. So for you, how therapeutic was it for you to pick up and be able to talk about the trauma that you endured throughout your childhood, and how has it helped you writing this book to kind of overcome that?
I feel like it was hard. It was very hard opening about my story. I was even like really iffy. I was really iffy about even opening up about my story, like about that part of my story, because I'm like, do I really want to let people in that deep in my life? I mean, the story period is deep, like it's my life, but I was like, that part I was a little unsure. And my fiance, he was like, if you feel comfortable, and I always knew that I want to help people who have been through that, or who have gone through it, because I know there's so many people in the world who have been through the same thing I've been through, and they don't talk about it. They're scared, or they just don't have that voice. And I want to be that voice for them. I want to be that person that says, you know what, I've been there, and I'm not fully over it. I haven't fully overcame the situation, but I'm working on it. And I feel like it's very important. Like, it's important to open up. You have to. It's like a lingering demon, and it just stays with you. And if you don't release it, it will haunt you. It takes over.
Yeah, I know for my personal life, like some of the most healing experiences that I've had in the trauma that I've gone through has been to just be completely open and honest with people about it. When you're hiding it, it like eats at you. It just sticks with you, and getting it out in the open, my great grandma used to say everything comes out in the wash. And being honest with other people and being honest with yourself and with a therapist and talking through it with somebody, it can really be like, being that emotionally vulnerable is so hard for people, but it's so valuable, and it really, really helps you to overcome that trauma that you've been through.
I don't want to cut you off, but it's like I'm not hearing it loud anymore. I don't know, maybe it's like awful.
Do you have any headphones that you could use?
Huh?
Do you have any headphones that you could use?
I don't have any on me. Like, it was perfectly fine. I don't know what happened. Why? Let me see. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because I think part of the problem is
Okay, Ron, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened. It just like a phone call came through and it cut off the speaker. But yeah.
No worries. Go ahead and ask the question again, Mox.
Yeah, you're all good. 1 second. So I know for myself, some of the difficult things that I've been through, being honest is so difficult. Being emotionally vulnerable is so hard, but it's incredibly rewarding in terms of talking about it with other people in your life, talking about it with a therapist, talking about it with the people that you love, and just like being just emotionally raw. And I felt like you did such a great, fantastic job of that with this book. I mean, it reads in your own, like, it's conversational, it's real, it's open, and it's so good. I would highly recommend to any of our listeners right now, check out this book. It's available on Amazon. And it's just a really cool story. Like, I feel like we've had one of those great talks where you sit down with someone for like 3-4 hours and you just talk through your whole life story, and after that you feel like you know them on a different level. I feel like we have done that, and this is the first time that we're talking. I feel so privileged just to know you and to know your story. I would love to read part of your book on this interview, if that's okay, and just talk to you about it. Would that be okay if I read some of it?
Yes. Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome. So this part really struck me specifically because I did something similar to this. I after a recent trauma that I went through. So this is from midway through the book. It says, unveiling layers of myself, sharing my father's journey, and coming to grips with my truths, even the painful truths, allows for growth and the creation of new strengths. I encourage you to speak your beautiful life into existence. Affirm yourself. Feed yourself beautiful words. You deserve them. Each morning I look at myself in my bathroom mirror and speak love. I am loved. I am smart, beautiful, and loving. I am a successful entrepreneur. I am a child of God. I am a wonderful fiance, mother, daughter, sister, aunt, and friend. That is just so empowering, and going through what you must have gone through to get to that point where you feel the strength and you feel the courage to actually say that out loud to yourself. That's so strong. That's so powerful.
It's hard. It's hard to actually come to that place where you're just like I'm just getting there. It was hard. It's still hard. I mean, sometimes you don't feel that way. I tell myself that, but sometimes deep inside you don't feel that way. So I just make sure I keep repeating it so that I know it's real, because I look at it like I am my own enemy. My mind is my own enemy. Like, no one in the world can make me feel any other way but myself, because when your mind is going, and I'm like a very overthinker. So I look at it like there's days I can get up and it's like, I tell myself bad things about myself, or whatever it is. But then I come to a place where I'm like, that's not me anymore. I'm not that person anymore. I am beautiful. I am strong. I affirm it, and I'm in a place where I believe in manifesting and just affirming your life and speaking good into the world so that good could come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me jump in here for a quick second, if you don't mind, because I feel like we live in a time where it's easy to play a victim, in today's day. Like everyone's a victim these days.
Yeah.
And then you run into people, who have a story of like things being done to them, and having an actual difficult childhood, and having parents who maybe didn't give you the best life up front. I feel like if anyone has the quote right to call themselves a victim, it would be you. But instead, you've taken your story and you've used it as fuel to hopefully knock some sense into some people, saying, hey, you don't have to be a victim. Is that an accurate statement? And how do you feel kind of moving forward, like with writing this book and your goals? Like, is that like one of your goals, is to like tell people, hey, your past can actually be your fuel to a better future?
Yes, absolutely. I would definitely say that. I look at my life like I am no longer a victim of my story. I am a victor of my story. I run my show now.
There you go.
Because I know people who have that victim mentality, and I was that person. I used to say, why me? Why me? Why did I have to go through this? God, why me? And then one day it clicked, and I'm like, well, why not me? Like, would I rather have been somebody else? So I look at it like, although I went through some traumatic things in my life, I feel like God made me stronger. Like I became stronger from the situations that I've been through. Like, I'm able to talk about my story now. And I mean, I still get a little anxious. Like right now, I feel like a little anxious, but it's okay, because that's how I tell myself, like, it's okay. I'm okay. I'm not a victim. I'm stronger than who I was. I'm not that person anymore. I'm allowed to speak my story, So yeah, I would definitely say to anyone, or in any situation, you don't have to mope around and just feel like, oh, my life is over. I've been through so much. Like, no. That's the time where you get up and you say, you know what? F it. I'm stronger than that, and I'm gonna keep pushing forward, and I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
Oh, amen to that. I feel like it's important for people to hear that, and hear that when when it's time to get rolling, like I feel like the days where I wake up and feel like I just don't want to put in the fight today. Like those are the days that end up being the most rewarding, is when you just decide, you know what, I'm going to get up. I am going to fight. I'm going to go through it. And you learn a lesson usually at the end of it all. But before we jump into more about her story and her book, all this amazing story here, I think it's time for signature question number 1, Mox.
Yeah.
Numero uno.
So, Vikkiana, one of the things that we do on our podcast is we ask each of our guests the same 3 questions, and it's based on what this podcast is about. It's a podcast about life, friendship, and tacos. So the first question is a fun one. The first question is a fun one. What is your favorite taco?
My favorite taco.
Oh, she's in deep thought right now.
You know what? I've been eating this new one lately. It's al pastor. Have you ever had that?
Al pastor?
Yeah. It has like these pineapple pieces in it and the meat.
Yeah, al pastor.
Those are good. Those are good.
Those are bomb. And you know what? It's real. Those are one of the things where, like, my dad used to make that quite often. And it was one of those days where if you saw the al pastor sitting out, you knew like not to eat lunch at school that day, because you knew you were about to throw down some tacos. And you come home. Yeah, exactly. You come home and there's like 50 tacos there, and you know that 25 of them are yours. That's awesome. Is there a place out in Pennsylvania that, because that's where you're at right now, is there a place out in Pennsylvania that has some pretty good tacos?
Yeah, there's some pretty good tacos. I mean, I just learned this truck. The truck's got some good stuff in there. But yeah, there's a place that I go. It's called Jimenez. They have some pretty good tacos there. That's why I eat my tacos al pastor. But yeah, they got some pretty good trucks out here too.
Mm-hmm.
If I ever end up out in Pennsylvania, are you anywhere near Philadelphia?
Actually, I'm like 45 minutes away from Philadelphia.
See, I want to go try an authentic Philly cheesesteak.
Oh, I just had one not too long ago. They're amazing.
Do you know a good spot? Because if I come out, I'm hitting you up.
Yeah, you have to go to either Pat's or Gino's. That's the famous spot, Pat's or Gino's, and they're literally like right across the street from each other.
I can do both. So we get a sandwich.
Yeah, you can do both. They're right there.
Then we'll go to the hospital after.
It'll be my first time.
You have to try.
That's definitely on the bucket list, is to go to Philadelphia and try some authentic Philly cheesesteaks. So one of the things I'm curious about is, obviously there's power to telling your story, and there's power to, sharing it with. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Sorry.
There's power in sharing your story, and I love hearing people's stories, and especially when it's a similar story to mine. Because it's like, it reminds me like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not, one of the only people going through, these traumatic lives or whatever. But for me, like, I have a story that I think people would be interested in one day, but I've never thought about writing a book. What made you decide to actually put pen to paper and write this book? And tell me a little bit more about like getting it published, because that's also, I'm very curious about that.
Okay. Well, one, I would encourage that if you want to tell your story, then do it. That's almost like leaving your mark in this world. But anyways, my writing journey started very young. I always journaled. Like every night I would journal. And I feel like that was almost like my getaway. When I was going through my problems and like my emotions, every night I'd write in my journal. And I would just always tell myself like, oh man, I could write a book one day. Like my life is so crazy. I'd be able to write a book one day. And I don't think I ever thought I'd really write a book, but I guess it was in my plans. And as I got older, just one day I'm like, I'm gonna write a book. Like his story is good now. He's okay. We don't have to hide the story anymore. Cause that was like one of my biggest things. It was like living it was almost like living under a rock. Like, you know, you can't tell your story to anybody. And it was like a big secret, like a big burden almost. Like, you know, it wasn't like being a normal kid and you can just be like, hey, you know. So it was kind of that. And publishing it, I went through an editor, and what's it called? I can't even think right now, but Sharp Editorial. My girl Lacey Swan, she is amazing. She helped me edit my book, and then she kind of like connected me with a publisher, who then me and her became pretty cool, and she helped me publish my book. So I just paid her, and she went over everything, and I told her how I wanted the cover of my book, and that's how that went. It was pretty fast though. It was like so quick.
How long has it been out now?
Actually, a year. I published it in, I want to say, April of 2020.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh, congratulations.
Thank you.
She's you know, one of the people who actually did something during the pandemic.
That's what it was. I swear that's what it was. The pandemic, I published it during the pandemic, and I was like, you know what, this is the time. This is the time. Let me just, because after I wrote it and everything, then I started like, should I really put it out? Like, who really wants to read my story? Like, then I started like talking myself out of it. My fiance is like, girl, you got this far. You better publish that damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, you know, here goes nothing. Kid, I'm just gonna do it. And that's how that went. And then yeah, and then during the pandemic, well, which was still in it, I started my second book, which now I'm like on chapter like 7 already. So I'm getting close to the end. I'm just trying to make it as right as I want it to be. Like I really want that book to hit a lot of people and just give a clear message of what I want to put out there.
That's awesome. Have you had the chance to like get some feedback from people who've read the book? Because, you know, obviously, you know, putting the book out there is one thing, but I'm sure I'm sure there's some people out there who've been blessed by the book and have been encouraged by it. Have you had any feedback from anybody?
Okay, you broke up just a little bit, like towards the end.
So I just asked if you happen to have had, you know, any feedback from people who've read the book.
Oh yeah, I've gotten feedback. I mean, most of the people that I had gotten feedback from were like, hey, you know, like when I got to your part, I wanted to know more. Like the story was good, but I wanted to know more. And that kind of pushed me to write the second book. But yeah, I got feedback. A lot of people were just like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Like people who live close to me were like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't know that was going on. I didn't know any of that. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Oh, it's funny how, you know, sometimes we're so, you know, we can't see things, you know, that are happening in other people's lives. And it's not until years later where we find out, oh my God, that person was going through that. That's insane. I wish I would have said something. I would have, you know, given them an extra hug or, you know, brought them some tacos or something to help them cope with it better. You know, before we jump into the next part, let's do signature question number dos.
Okay.
Number 2.
Okay. So signature question number 2, and this one is usually a bit harder for people, but I somehow I feel like you're going to be good at this question. If you had a life quote, something that helped you get through things, a mantra or a Bible verse or a lyric or anything, if you had a life quote, what would it be?
It would be, I would have to say something I would live by. Pray on it.
There you go.
Just pray on it. That's it. Just pray on it. I mean, like, I've been through so much and I always end up doing the same thing. I always pray on it. If it's bad, I pray on it. If it's good, I pray on it. If it's in between, if I'm happy, whatever, I just pray on it. So I believe that if I leave it in God's hands, everything's gonna be all right. So
yeah, amen.
I just pray on it.
I have to say, Ruben and I are both Christians, and
we are.
Oh,
it's news to me.
But reading, especially like reading that you grew up going to church and the redemption in this story, it's incredible. And as a Christian, it is so cool to read like through it all, God was there and he's still here and he is still like making this story so much more beautiful day by day. That's awesome. Yeah, so I wanted to ask more about the book because I actually discovered your book through Gabrielle Stone.
Okay.
We had her on the podcast a couple months back, and she posted about your book on her story. How has, in terms of like how far this book has gone, like were you ever expecting like people like Gabrielle to read it or a ton of people to read it? How far did you think this book would go?
I'm still not sure how far it will go, but I mean, I had reached out to her and I was honored that she accepted my book. Most people like her that have received it, I like reached out to them and they accepted my book. But I mean, I think she was probably like the first one to put it out there, like, hey, you know, check out her book and stuff like that. So that was pretty awesome. I'm very grateful for that. But I mean, it's reached pretty much people. Like this, someone from Canada had bought it and she wrote me and she's like, oh, you know, our stories relate. And she was telling me her story. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're in Canada? Like, someone from the United Kingdom bought it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what, wow, I was so surprised. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for everyone who has read it, who has recommended it, who's read it, like it just everyone who has it or just whatever.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful because I didn't know where it would go, and I didn't know if anyone would actually even read it. Like I don't think I ever noticed how many books are in the world. Like I'm like, shit, there's a lot of books out here. Like mine's is like one in a haystack. But I try my best also to just like put it out there and I just try my best because I mean it's a good story.
It is.
And I guess if I push it, no one's gonna notice and read it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Has your dad read the book yet? And if he has, what did he say about it? Because that's a curious thing I'd be interested to see what people would say about me if they ever wrote a book about how I treat them.
So my dad has read it. I have my copy. Well, my book is also published in Spanish. So I have it in English and Spanish.
That's cool.
And yeah, and I did it in Spanish because my dad speaks Spanish. So, you know, I'm like, how can I write a whole book on his life and he doesn't even know what the heck it says? So I went on and I did it myself and I changed it into Spanish. Like I got it in Spanish. I wrote it in Spanish. And once it was published and everything, I gave him a copy and he read it and he was like, oh my gosh, that was so good. Like, he's like, it's crazy. Like, he's like, he felt like he was reading about somebody else. He's like, when you read your story, and it's like so unreal. Like, the whole story is just so crazy. So I guess like him reading it on paper, he was like, damn, that was crazy. Like, that was interesting. So, I mean, he gave me the okay. He originally had gave me the okay to write the book in the first place. I wasn't just going to go write his business out there. But he was like, go ahead. You know, he gave me the okay. So then I just went on and did it in Spanish so that he can also read it and just know what was in there.
Yeah.
And how is your relationship with your father now? My understanding is it's good, but you know, how are you able to, you know,
it's great.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear.
It's great. I love him. I love my dad. Like we've always had a good bond. Even when he was a fugitive, like and I'd visit and stuff like that. Like we always had a great bond. When I was like maybe like 12, 13, I don't know, maybe around there was when he kind of like opened up and told me the story because I'm like, all right, I'm getting big. Why do I gotta see you over here, over there? Like, why you're not home? And stuff like that. And he was just like, look, and he just broke the story down to me. And, you know, I cried and stuff like that. And actually, he told me the story as we were walking in the sand on the beach, and that's why the cover of my book is that, because that was like the moment where everything kind of changed for me. It was like, wow, you know, he had like such an adult conversation with me. I didn't even know how to take it, and it was amazing. Like, I'm like, okay, so I felt better. I don't know, it was just crazy, but our bond is beautiful. We always had a good bond, but that's my buddy. That's my bestie.
That's awesome.
Well, I think she's in question number 3.
So we have 2 more questions for you. The first one is the number 3 of the questions that we ask all of our guests, and it is kind of related to that. But the question is, can you have more than one best friend
outside of significant others and family? You had to be very specific here.
Okay, you said, can you have more than one best friend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you have more than one best friend?
Like, are you allowed to?
Wait, are you saying if I have more than one best friend?
No, like in general, like the question is, you know, because one of us here believes that you can have a million best friends, and the other one's a little bit more logical and says you can't have more than one best friend. So the question is, do you believe that you're allowed to have more than one best friend outside of your significant others and family? Because that's a whole different category of relationships.
I think you should have one. I don't have one. I mean, my dad, but I don't have one. But I think it should be just one. I think there should be that one person that's like, that's my dog. And other than that, no. Outside of that, I can't have 2. It's only me and you. Me and you.
I believe it. That's my philosophy. Moxy literally will go to dinner, and by the end of the dinner, she's best friends with the waiter. She got pulled over once, and she said that the cop was her best friend. The cop still gave her a ticket, but you know, we have one on my side, so I gotta take the win.
I know. He's gotten like, in 5 seasons of this podcast, he's gotten like 4 people to say that. So
I think it's like 12.
I'll give you the win.
I think it's 12. All right, and you had one last
yeah. So
for her.
I wanted to end on a really cool note and read another section of the book. This is from that same page 95.
Read it in Spanish.
I cannot do that. You could do that.
No, I can't.
So right after where you talk about speaking love to yourself, you say, I also affirm my children. My words are food to their soul, and it's best to nourish them with positivity and love. Every day, I tell my children that they are beautiful inside and out. I ask that they thank God for allowing them to see another day. I tell them they are special stars that shine bright and have bright futures ahead, too. And so I wanted to end just because I know you have 5 children, right? 3 girls and 2 boys? Yeah. Yep. And how have they reacted to, do they know about the book? Do they know about the story? How have they taken all of this?
They know about the book. They ask me all the time. They're like, Mom, when can I read the book? And I tell them it's an adult book. You can't read it yet. Because they see my dad every day now. So it'd probably be a little awkward for them right now. Like, you know, they don't see him with those eyes of like a fugitive, a drug dealer, or whatever. They don't see him like that, you know. But
how old are they?
It's so funny. Like they're like they'll tell their teachers and stuff, my mom's an author, or they'll like Google me and they're like, oh Mom, you're famous, like you're on Google. And I'm like, okay. But they see the book, but they haven't read it. They don't know what's in it. And then it's like with my second book, they're like, can we read that one? And I'm like, oh, you really can't read that one yet. But
you can read that.
Like, well, when are you gonna write a damn PG book? I'm like, soon.
Well, awesome. The book is called The Fugitives Daughter. It's up on the screen right now if you're watching this. Available on Amazon. We'll have a link in the description below that will take you straight to the page to purchase the book. Plus, it'll be our Amazon link, so we'll get a little commission off of it as well. But please go purchase the book. Support her, and this is a really incredible story that I think a lot of people will be blessed by and be blessed by the outcome and overcoming again, like I said, you know, the victim mentality, because if anybody could pull a victim card, it's her, because she's been through some stuff. So, and she's choosing not to be. She said she's choosing to be a victor of her story, not a victim. So
That's so awesome.
Where can people find you on social media, and what's the best way to support you moving forward?
The best way to reach me or anything is on my Instagram, which is author Vikkiana F. I didn't get the other question, sorry.
Oh, and what's the best way to support you moving forward?
Just purchase my book, leave me a review. I love honest reviews. I love to hear other people's stories. Or even message me through Instagram. I respond. I'm not that kind of person. I love to just hear people's story and just relate to people however I can, help you out however I can. So again, author Vikkiana F. And yeah.
Awesome.
Well, go again. The book's called Farmer's Daughter. It's out, available on Amazon. Go purchase it.
Did you just say a farmer's daughter?
A farmer. I did.
A farmer.
Fugitives Daughter. Wow. Fugitives Daughter. I think A Farmer's Daughter is an actual Lifetime movie.
That is so funny. I thought the same thing. I'm like, did he say a farmer's daughter? I'm like, wait, I'm not no farmer's daughter. No,
A Farmer's Daughter is actually, I think it's a
I
Lifetime
don't know if my
movie.
story would have been as interesting.
I'm looking it up right now. No, it's a song. It's a song by Rodney Atkins. All right.
That's so random.
It is. I know, A Fugitive's Daughter. Thank you for correcting me.
Anytime.
All right, we're gonna jump into some commercial breaks here. We'll be back with more of You're My Best Friend.
Why are you laughing?
The reason why I'm laughing is because we had this awkward moment at the end of the intro, in which I cut you off by accident. Normally I cut you off on purpose, but I cut you off by accident. And then you go to say what you were going to say again, and I cut you off again. And it was hilarious to me, so I thought I'd laugh about it. I just realized something here, Mox. I'm in our studio, and you are not.
You're right. That is correct.
Where are you?
I am actually at my apartment for probably one of the last recordings I will ever do in this apartment.
Oh, when do you move out?
End of April.
Oh, a couple of weeks.
Just a couple weeks. Yeah, Melody and I charted out which days we're going to be together. We have about 10 days left. We should
do one last live stream from your apartment.
Okay.
One last live stream. You know what? How about this? If you're up for it, a mini concert, a live stream mini concert from the apartment.
I really have too much going on.
Perfect. We'll do it. I'll iron out the details. Don't worry. Cool. Perfect. Hey, so did we ever finish the seating chart for the wedding?
We're not doing a seating chart.
Damn it. I thought whatever. One last thought. Let's do this.
All right. So our one last thought for this week comes directly from the book that we spent this episode discussing.
A Farmer's Daughter.
Oh my gosh, I read this to Ruben because he asked what this book was about because I was the one who read it. And I read this quote to him as we were going into this, and it was super inspirational. So this is basically chapter 10, the final chapter in the book is it's this entire quote. But I'm going to read the whole thing because if you haven't already been inspired to read this book after this week's episode, I think this quote might inspire you too. So this is chapter 10. It begins with a quote from Mr. Albert Clark that says, "In our daily lives, we must see that it is not happiness that makes us grateful, but the gratefulness that makes us happy." And Vicky says, "Today, thank God, my father is back to weighing about 190 pounds, dancing salsa, and busting down those moves. His health has improved drastically, and he looks amazing. Here and there, he faces minor health-related setbacks, but nothing like before. His diabetes is fairly under control, His gout is being treated, and he is no longer required to take medications for his heart. My father looks at life differently now. He enjoys being around his grandchildren, often telling me they give him life. We do things as a family, such as staying in hotels to enjoy the pool during the cold weather and taking the kids to the dairy farm to feed the animals and eat ice cream. In a way, having him in rating, even especially with my kids, makes up for the time he missed with my siblings and I. I enjoy watching him walk into church with my 3 daughters, the same church we attended when I was a kid. It appears as though life is repeating itself when I see my father and babies walk into church. This is such a beautiful feeling, just seeing him walk, because there was a time when he could barely move. Now he's walking with my kids, attending services, and praising the Lord. What a mighty God we serve. The life I once knew as a child is long gone, and although the memories remain and I continue to work through various emotions and thoughts, I choose to use those experiences for good, for my good, my partner's good, and my children's good. Perspective is key. I can view my father's decisions as hindrances, or I can look for the blessings in the lessons, and the latter is what I intend to do. My dad's story belongs to him, but I have taken his journey and used it to propel mine in creating a family I am proud of, establishing a career I enjoy, and making beautiful memories to far surpass my life. That's just such an inspiring message coming from Vikkiana Fernandez, and one that I think we should all carry with us as we go into this next week.
Absolutely. And you know what? I want to side note to end this on a hopefully a positive note. Either by the time this episode airs or shortly after this episode airs, a jury decision is going to be made on the Derek Chauvin case. You know, the guy who is being tried for murder of the alleged murder of George Floyd. And just basically, you know, I'm not going to sit here. This isn't the podcast where I give my opinions on political things. I just want everyone out there to be safe, be smart, because I think no matter what happens, there's going to be some civil unrest happening. Yeah. I just want everyone to be safe, stock up on food so that way you don't have to go to the store in the next couple of days, and not have to be out and about if you don't have to. So with that being said, I think that's all we have for you this week.
I think it is.
Probably
Thank you so much for joining us.
This is probably the quickest recording we've ever done.
Seriously, this is awesome.
I don't like it.
I like it.
I had like 4 more things to talk about, but I'm holding off. All right. Well, my name's Ruben Jay.
And I'm Moxy Ann.
You can call me God.
Nope.
And we
not gonna happen, buddy.
Are out of time.
We'll see you next week.
Goodbye. I don't know why I sound like I'm dying on that one.
I'm not sure. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. They were messaging in the group and nobody clarified whether